Begin the current Daf Mesechus Bava Kama Daf Lamed Zayin. We're getting 8 lines down at the top of the Yamid, where the Gemara continues with Halacha, the next Mishnah, continuing on this idea of regarding a shiur hamud. Shiur corresponds to Kalzik and Necheskel, turn to Daf Chaim, turn to today's Daf, Shbeischus B'chinim B'nei Yisrael, and for those throughout the world, so my is discussing today's Daf Amud Stam of Amud Lakol. The question about regarding when you're a mood for one type, unspecifically, does that make you a mood for everything? So let's say mood leminoi. Does that make you mood l'shein? I mean, let's say you did 3 times the ox. What's the halacha going to be regarding giraffes? Or mood l'adam, mood l'behema. Let's say you did 3 times for people. Does that make you automatically mood for behema? Let's say mood l'ketanim, mood l'gedalim. If you did small ones, how about for bigger ones? Mood l'shabbasis, mood l'chel. If you did it 3 times in Shabbos, would that be also considered a mood for a weekday? The halacha of the mood, what makes something into a mood? Shorshal hektish v'shal kanani. The discrepancies regarding when there's goring between a regular headgear and that of hektish and that of a non-Jew. So beginning current daf, the Mishnah begins, Shershu mud lamina. When you have an ox that is mu'id, meaning it's done it 3 times that it gored an animal of its own type. But ve'ena mu'id l'she'ena minay. But it's not a mu'id for that which is not its type. It only did it for a certain type. Or mu'id la'adam ve'ena mu'id la'behema. Let's say it's gored a person 3 times, but has never done that 3 times to an animal. Or another case, mud legetanim. If let's say it did 3 times for small animals, calves, but ve'in mud legedailim, hasn't done it 3 times for large animals. So it says the Mishnah like this: Eshu mud lay, that which it's mud for sham nazik sham. You pay obviously because the mud full damages. Ve'eshein mud lay, the one that it didn't do 3 times for, which we had a few different cases. Sham chatzit nazik, you pay chatzit. You are not a mud for that other category. Amalef Rabbi Yehuda said the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. Wait a second. I have the following question. Let's say the ox, because it's not working on Saturday, so it's feeling a little bit arrogant, and it gores 3 times on Shabbos. But it's not a mood for a weekday. What would the halacha be of this ox? Asks the actions of Rabbi Yehuda. For Shabbos, you pay full damages because it's a mood for Shabbos. For a weekday, you won't pay half the damages because it's not a mood for weekdays. Now, concludes the Mishnah, hutam. When is the shiur a tam? If it was a mood for Shabbos, after it's already a mood, then they pass in front of this animal, oxen on 3 different Shabbos, and it did not gore, it goes back to its state of being a tam. And then if it gores again, it's only going to pay chatzin nezik. Now, we have a very critical machlekes how to interpret the cases of our Mishnah. We had a few cases. Minay and Eina Minay, Adam and Behema, Ketanim and Gedailim. So Itmar, we learned like this, it's one letter, but it's a critical letter that changes a fundamental reading of the Mishnah. Rav Zidama, he says like this. Well, the way it's Rashi, it sounds like that Gimel Yomei Shabbos is it says the words are right. On the Shabbos is it sounds like Shabbos size. Well, that actually it's funny because this is the famous Yerushalmi Tesis brings that because he sees them with beautiful with other clothing. They in the Makiram, it doesn't recognize them. It's like a whole. But yeah, it's if he didn't do it 3 times in one Shabbos, you have to know. It depends probably on what would be if he did it on. Would it be the Shabbos? If it's Shabbos, l'chay you would need to have 3 Shabbos. If it's Shabbos, it's not the shiur be'etzim. It's Shabbos. If you move for Shabbos, you have to have 3 Shabbos. Yeah, I hear you. Could clear. Right. That's to make it, and the Shaila would be undoing it also. It sounds like Gimel. Sounds like undoing is clear. I'm saying that right. The undoing it sounds clear from the Mishnah. Gimel Yomei Shabbos. So yeah. So the Gemara has a critical machlekes of the reading of the Mishnah, and it all comes down to one letter vav. Rav Zvidam, he says like this. He has the girsa we have in our Mishnah, the way we were reading the Mishnah. Ve'in mu'id tanan, meaning the Mishnah said like this: a shiur that's mu'id for its type, and ve'einoi mu'id l'she'einoi minoi, meaning that we know that it didn't gore the other types. Meaning, for example, let's say giraffes passed by this ox and he didn't gore them. Oh, so therefore, says the halacha of the Mishnah, for the one that is not a muad, for if it subsequently gores at a later time, it will only pay chatzin nazik. But mistama, if let's say you didn't know definitively that it's not a muad l'shein namina, if let's say it was muad for one type, it would be muad for another type too. Or let's say it was muad for calves, it would be muad for gedalim. That's how Zvid learns the Mishnah, because it's telling us, and it's not a muad. What do you mean, and it's not? What's and? And they're saying, but avisin, because if you don't know definitively, then your taka would be a muad for other types. Papa, he has a different girsa, not like our Mishnah. He's missing the vav. Ain't a muad tanan. So the Gemara explains what's the machlekes. Razir he says the ain't a muad tanan. The girsa is, and it's not a muad. Hastama, what that tells us is, like we just explained, then okay, if we didn't see specifically that he saw three giraffes and didn't gore them, I would have said, okay, he gored 3 oxen. The same thing as giraffes or whatever have a mood. He would be a mood for the other ones too. Papa, on the other hand, he says, no. Ain't a mood to the gear says not with a vav. It's telling you a shor that's a mood. For minoi, ain't a mood. Lisha ain't a minoi. The stomach will have a mood. So a critical machlekes over here. In what's the halacha when you're a mood for one type? What is the stomach? If I didn't see that it did not gore, I didn't see that it saw the other ones and didn't gore. I didn't see that. Now, what's the halacha with other ones? According to Zvid, it will be a mood for the other ones. According to Papa, it will not be a mood. So the Gemara explains that each one is medaik from a different point of our Mishnah. Zvid daik miseva, he infers his shita from the end of the Mishnah. Papa daik meresha, he infers his opinion from the reisha of the Mishnah. As the Gemara explains, Zvid that says that stama it is a mood daik miseva. What's his deal? Because the Getanim we learned in the Mishnah mood the Getanim. We said, if you're a mood for ketanim, ve'in a mood l'gedailim, so then we have the halacha that the one that you're mood for, you pay nazik shalom, and not mood, you pay chatzin nazik. So it says Rav Zvid like this. If you say the way our gear says, the way Rav Zvid has his gersa, that ve'in a mood ketani, that the Mishnah is coming to tell us that actually it saw gedailim and it didn't gore it. So it's lahedya, not mood. So hastame, but let's say I didn't. I just saw it gored 3 calves. That's all I saw. Have a mood, it would be a mood then for Gedailim. Okay, so then Hakamashman, there would be a chiddush that the Mishnah would be teaching us. That even from Ketanim to Gedailim, that even there, because obviously it's easier for it to injure calves, Mistam have a mood, we could say, okay, make on them, and that it would have done the same thing to Gedailim, and it's a mood if it ever gores a larger animal. That's the chiddush. But if you learn like a papa, that it's saying that that's the halacha. When it's a muad for ketanim, it's not a muad for gedailim, which is teaching us stomaloy have a muad that no, you're muad for ketanim. That's it. You're not. It's paskening the halacha that is not a muad for gedailim. So what's the Mishnah telling us? What if I already said in the Mishnah previously, miktan the alma, which is like let's say from minay to ina minay, but they're both young animals. The Reish of the Mishnah already told me that stama loy have a muad, that it's not a muad from one to the other, because we already said the case of minay and te'ina minay, but they're both ketanim. So do I have to tell you that it's not going to be muad to a bigger animal, which is more difficult for it to injure? And of course, I'm not going to presume. What would the chiddush be? Papa Malachi will tell you it's not true. It's you do need it because I would have thought to say, since it breached that type of animal, let's say he was injuring the koalas, a baby koala and a large koala. So parts base. So it's already been breached over there. It wouldn't make a difference, the smaller ones and the bigger ones. In other words, yes, you're right. From one min to another min, that doesn't make you a muad. But I would have thought to say the same min, which is the case of Ketan Gedailim, that it would be. Because it's injuring that type, that species. That's the chiddush to say that no, it's not going to be a muad. So Akapanim, that was his dik, and Rav Papa doesn't like his dik necessarily. Rav Papa, who says that stama, it's not a muad, he's daik mireisha. Why? Because one of the cases were mud la'adam. If you're mud for a person, now again, depending on the girsa, his girsa was without a vav, not like our Mishnah. He says, ain't a mud behema. If you're mud for a person, that makes you that you're not automatically mud for behema. Okay, so they're public this. If you're going to say, like I say, that ain't a mud tanan, it's teaching you, in other words, what's it saying? When you're muad for a behema, you're not a muad for an adam. Stama will have a muad, which tells you that presumably, without any other indication, you're not going to be a muad for an Adam. So Kamashmon, that's a Chiddush. It's teaching me that even from a person that has mazel, lebehema nami, to an animal also, stomach have a mood. Because that's the case. Mood Adam in the mood lebehema. Even if you became mood for Adam, it's a great zach. This animal is injuring people, which is harder to injure because he has his mazel, malach protecting whatever it is. He has his own intelligence, and still you're not going to be a mood for behema. That's a great chiddush. But if you say like our girsa, like Razvid's girsa, that ve'ene mood is the girsa, that it says, and that you're not a mood to the one that's not its type, katani, okay, hastama. So what he's saying, but unspecifically, have a mood, then it would be a mood from, let's say, one type to a different type. So wait a second. If you're going to say, for one animal to another animal, you already tell me from the case of the first case of minay to ina minay. Let's have a muid, because again, that's how you read it if you have the vav, because it's saying, and it didn't. But if we didn't know otherwise, then it would be muid for ina minay. So then, so do I have to tell you from a person to a behema that you're going to be a mood? Of course you're going to be a mood. If from one type of animal to another animal, a human being is no less of a kavachaimer, that if you're a mood for a person, you're definitely going to be injuring. Your characteristic is to injure all types of animals. If other types of animals, which are easier, for sure, Adam. And Rashi points out, you can't say that, no, the halacha itself was necessary to say that, because that's really what the girsa is according to what we have with a vav, like Rav Zvid, is that to say when we see that he's not a muad for a behema, meaning muad la'adam ve'ena muad la'behema, is really what the halacha is, that says, and you didn't become a muad for behema, then you pay chatzin nezek. Can't say that because that's so pashut that we know a tam pays chatzin nezek. It must be for the diak shabai, which is, hey, it's only because you saw that he's not a muad for behema because he saw three animals and didn't gore them. But stama, it would be. That's the chiddush. But that's no chiddush according to the girsa of Razid, because you already know this from the opening case of minin and minin. Rav Zid Malachi would tell you no. Reisha achazarakai. And that's what we needed to tell you, that on an animal you're only going to pay chatzi nezek, and even though he became a muad, but kugoin to have a muad la'adam or muad la'behema. We wanted to know what's the chiddush of muad la'adam, have a muad la'behema. What's the chiddush? Of course, you even muad from mina to ina mina. So he says, you're right. Of course, we know that, but we're not talking about just becoming a muad to behema from a muad la'adam. We're talking about on when it subsequently backs out. For example, it was a muad to both of them, but hadbe behema, and now it's going back to tam from a behema. What does that mean? The koi gabe behema tlasazim l'bloi nagach. It saw an animal after it was already moved to behema and moved to adam. It saw an animal 3 times and did not gore it. So then it goes back to being a tam, even though it didn't retract from being a muad from adam. Now, why is that a chiddush? What would you say? Since it didn't back out from being a muad from adam, backing out from an animal is not considered as a backing out, because you can't come back to be a tam if you're already a mood for adam. That's the chiddush I was telling you, that the yes, muad la'adam ve'enai muad la'behema, with a vav, the way Rav Zvid says it. What does that mean? The halach itself, that's obvious. No, how is it in a muad la'behema? Because it was already a muad to behema and the adam, and now it went 3 times. It didn't gore it. Yes, that will now tell you that it could go back down to being a tam. That is a chiddush in the halach, and therefore that doesn't refute Rav Zvid, because the chiddush is not in the stama. The stama, yeah, of course that we know from mina and mina. So Gemara says meisve. Now that we finished explaining their sources itself, now the Gemara brings different Tanoic opinions to ask on these amiram. So the Gemara asks on Rav Zvid. Now Rav Zvid was the one who held mud la'adam have a mud la'behema. It's only because the Mishnah has a vav. It's say, and it's not. Oh, then it's not going to be. But istama, if you were mud la'adam, you would be mud la'behema. The Gemara asks on him from the following brisa. Simchas Aimer, Simchas says, mud la'adam. If you're mood for a person, if the animal had gored a person 3 times, mud la'behema kavachem. It's a mood for an animal from a kavachem. What's the kavachem? Umal la'adam. If by a person that it became a mood. So lebehema lekol again. I mean, of course, a human being is much harder to kill, to injure, and if he did it, so for sure he's gonna be chayav for behema, and he's a mood for that. But says the Gemara Machal Tanakama in mood kama. That's sumchas. Obviously, the Tanakama, the Rabbanon, disagree, and they say that you would not be a mood. But according to Zvid, you're a mood for behema if you're a mood for Adam. So the Zvid says no. Sumchas achazachakai. Sumchas is actually going on this case that we just described and how we explained the halacha of the Mishnah about backing out. This is what he was telling the Tanakama. The ka'amid this that you said, and again, this is the way Zvid had explained the Mishnah. Chazara the behema chazara that mood la'adam ve'ein the mood behema, meaning you're backing out of becoming back a tam from behema that you described as chazara. No, on that I disagree. Chazara the behema lav chazarahi. To back out the animal to be a tam now again is not a backing out. If from a person like Mahad that he did not dial it down. So it's not contradicting Rav Zid on the actual halacha, it's on this other halacha of chazara that Sumchas is disagreeing. So Rav Ashi says, Tashma, let's bring a raya actually like Reb Zera from our Mishnah. What did our Mishnah say? So one of the cases was Amalef Rabbi Yehuda. They said in front of Rabbi Yehuda, let's say Hariz Amud l'Shabbasis. Let's say he sees the golden abekashes and he goes crazy. He goes wild and he starts shtipping everyone because it's Shabbos and he doesn't recognize. But on the weekday when everyone's wearing their regular chalat or whatever, he doesn't injure anybody. So let me say yes. That's exactly what the halach is going to be. On Shabbos, the owner is going to pay nezik shalom because that's when he's in mood for. During the weekday, he's only going to pay chatzi nezik. Okay, says the Gemara, if you're going to say like Rav Zvid that ve'ena mood katani, that the girsa should be if the animal was that it did it 3 times in Shabbos, and we saw 3 weekdays that it didn't do it 3 weekdays, so that means to say they're asking this question: where we see was mood for Shabbos, and where we see 3 times in the weekday that it didn't gore. So we want to know, Rebbe, what's the halacha? And he's answering them that it says later in the Mishnah, yes, Amalham, he says Shabbos is going to be nezik shalom and weekdays is going to be chatzi nezik. But if you say it like Rav Papa's girsa, it doesn't make sense. If your girsa is eine muad katani, that it's saying if you're muad for Shabbos blank, then you're eine muad for weekday. It's like muchud megamerle. They're teaching the Rebbe what the halacha is. They're basically saying the halacha. And moreover, what is he answering them? They also said eine muad, so they already said it. And moreover, Amr B'Yana says Maresha Namedeka. Narration of the Mishnah also seems to be precise like Rav Zvid, because the Mishnah said like this. It said Eshemuad loy. It said that the one that it's a muad for, Mishal Nezik Shalom, you'll pay Nezik Shalom. Veshein muad loy, Mishal Mechatzi Nezik, and the one that you're not muad for will pay Chatzi Nezik. So, Rabbi Shloimy, if you say like our girsa, like Rav Zvid's girsa, ve'ein muad kitani, and that means that was part of the case. We're saying if you saw it was muad for mina, let's say, and it went 3 times and it did not go a different time, so Perush come a In other words, that since we're saying it because of its diuk, we're being medayik, but stomach would be a muad. So obviously that we're concluding the teaching and we're saying, okay, that's only going to be chatzi nezik for the other ones when we see explicitly that it didn't gore, because stomach would be. But Eliyam, but if you say like a papa that ain't a muad katani. So Pascha, so that's it. You already said the teaching. You said if it's muad for minoi, then ain't a muad l'shein minoi. Maisu, what then? What are you saying? Eshemud lemisham nezik shalim. That the muad one you'll pay full damages. Veshein muad loy misham chatnazi. One that's not, you'll pay chatzi nezik. But says adhash shalash minon. Up until this point in this mesechta, if you ask someone that we don't know that tam misham chatzi nezik, muad misham nezik shalim. Someone at this point who came to the daf every day and he's going to say, "What's the halacha with tam? What's the halacha with muad?" You say, "Get out of here. What was shlofst the ganze tag?" Right? Of course, we know tam pays chatzi nezik and muad pays nezik shalim. So what are you saying now? That so the muad will pay nezik shalom and the muad will pay chatzi nezik. You already said that this one is. You said that you're a muad for mina. You're a muad. We know that halacha already. But if you're saying it was part of the case and not the halacha, which is what the vav is, and saying and it wasn't for that. Now what's the halacha? That would make sense. So again, that's another indicator that the Mishnah should be like our girsa with a vav, like the Rebbe Zvid holds, and not like a papa. But the Gemara actually concludes interestingly that the imtim tzalaima nama isra papa. But okay, we seem to have said that the Mishnah seems not to be like him. But even if you're going to say like a papa, that's stama. If you're mood for one type, you would not be mood for a different type. But this actually gets us into a whole new conversation. But if let's say you have nogach, shur, chamor, v'gamal, let's say the ox gored a whole cornucopia. It doesn't like having just 12 of the same donuts. Every donut has to be a different one. Has to be the sprinkle, has to be the caramel, has to be. So he gored an ox, a donkey, and a camel. Nasa mood lakol, even Rav Papa, who he holds the Mishnah is saying that when you're mood for one type, you're not mood for another type. If you did a variety version, you don't have to have the three negichis have to be from every type 3 times, because since it became a mood through different types, he is a mood lakol, which is a very unique halacha that you don't have to have. Okay, I only know this type. Maybe he's a tam for each type now. No, you did 3 of all different types. You're going to be a mood for all types. Which trying to learn the brisa, which gets us into interesting conversation. Rosh Nagach, which it goes into now compositions of what makes you into a mood, because we're leaving the traditional fold of like, okay, you got to do 3 types, 3 times of this one type, because that's what Papa holds. Mood for one is not mood for another type. It says no, but if it's a variety type, now you mood for all. What happens if, let's say, Rosh Nagach? Let's say it sees an ox, it gores. Chamar, it says donkey loy nagach.
It seems to me, if I'm not mistaken, the Gemara is trying to reckon whether or not it's a general concept. What is a moed versus the tom versus a property is on a specific nature of a specific behemoth.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That always there's many different lamdas here, obviously, about what is a mood. Is a mood prescriptive or descriptive?
How do you keep track? Who's keeping track here? The nitva? I mean, Henry, it's a lot of work.
The owner has liability, but you're right. They have to bring Eidim. That we find this a lot of times by Eidim Zaymin, that they bring Eidim to say, look, this happened already, a pattern before, and they do the lookup online to see which cars already had this accident already, and right, that was the animal facts they had, right. So Rosh Nagach, let's say he's an ox and it gores. Chamar loy nagach, a donkey and it didn't gore. Sus nogach, it saw a horse that did gore. Gamal loy nogach, a camel and it didn't gore. Parad nogach, it saw a mule and it gored. Arud, which is like a wild donkey, loy nogach and it didn't gore. So fascinating, says the Brayta, nasamud l'sirugin lakol. It becomes what's called a muid for sirugin, which are alternate sides, alternating for every type, because it was all different types. So that's the calculation that comes out. It's sirugin, it's every other one, and it's going to be all types because it was all different types. Which Ibar led the following question. Again, there's a lot of interesting things to think about regarding all these different cases. But the Gemara says Ibar led the following question. Nagach, as we continue to Talmud Beis, let's say the animal gored a shiur, v'shar, chamor, v'gamal mahu. What's the halacha if it did like this? An ox, a donkey, and a camel. What's the halacha? So what's the question? The Gemara says like this. Harshar basar, this last ox. Now, where do you put him? Where's the comma? Basar shvam shadin le? Do you say, okay, look, you had 2 oxen before him. He's ox number 3. So that would be very critical, because that means to say that means it's only a mood for oxen. For the other types, the donkey and the camel have nothing to combine with, so you're not a mood for other types. Like then we say, no, this last ox, you would say, no, you have 3 different types of animals together. It's like when you're playing cards and you're playing or rummy cup. You're like, where do I put this one? Do I put it with the 12? Do I put it with the you can't get both. So if you get all the reds or whatever, so if you put it with now chamar b'gamal, so maybe ayaylu kulamini, maybe it's a mood for all different types because you had 3 different types in a row. Right. The Gemara is not entertaining that over here, right? Or the Gemara says, what happens if you have like this? And Taish explains what's different this case than the previous case, because obviously now it's which one's coming first. So let's say you have chamor v'gamal, which would seem to say that this should be obvious one way, but Taish says no, because ultimately we do presume that the mood would be of a certain type versus all different types. So the question is like this: what happens if You have chamor v'gamal. You have a donkey that gores, a camel that gores, and then shur v'shur. An ox knocks. Now, what's the halacha? That if you're going to say that when it started with oxen, you go based on its type, what would the halacha be over here? Do you say Hai Shor Kama, this first ox, that it's going based on the first pattern that it started, which was different types? So that's it. It's now moved for all different types. Like no, like Tais says, we'll go based on its min, we'll go based on oxen. Maybe it's only 3 oxen in a row that you got those, when you pull the slots. And for some other type, right. But then, yeah, but then when you subsequently see that it did that, no, that's a famous clarity about prescriptive or descriptive. What is mu'id a siman or a siba? In other words, when you see that, you see was 2 afterwards. In the maybe if you didn't know and you paskin, maybe, but we're saying this is the case. No. I'm saying, but this case is they didn't. It sounds like they didn't take him to court until it did this. So then you see that it's not a mu'id for lakol. You see that it's a mu'id for, and plus also it's really it's which one is the one that it's going to be. It's really subsequently. Really, it's not really these cases itself. It's really now for the next time. No, we want to know. It's not really for anything anyway. We want to know nuchtem. There's the guy negeach another animal. We want to know what's going to be then. So it's really psak for later anyway. It's not really for something that really was done. Oh, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like that. Right, exactly. So it sounds like it was exactly this order. So maybe he would not be moved for another type. Now, a similar type of questioning says the Gemara like this. Let's say it was Shabbos, that a gourd, Shabbos, and a gourd. Then, Ech b'Shabbos, V'shein b'Shabbos. And then Sunday, Monday, what's the halacha? So what's the question? So the Gemara explains. HaShabbos Basraisa, the last Shabbos, Basa Shabbos with the Shinli, do you say, okay, it's 3 Shabbos in a row, and you get the payout over there, it's 3, it's Vakat l'Shabbos or the Yait, so it's only moved for Shabbos, the Mitzachol Yait, so it's not moved for weekdays? Or did we say, no, maybe Basa Echad B'Shabbos, V'shein B'Shabbos Shadinli, that last Shabbos, he then went on a killing spree the next Sunday and the next and Monday, so V'yaylu Kuliyaymer, now he's moved for all days, because you see, it was the 3 different days in a row. So maybe it's a mood for old days. Similarly, let's say, which is the same thing as the previous, but now regarding days. Let's say you have Hey b'Shabbos ve'erev Shabbos v'Shabbos. So it gored on Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. Then it was the next week Shabbos, and then the next week v'Shabbos. Ma'was halacha. So same thing. You say HaShabbos Kamaisa, the first Shabbos was Basa Hey b'Shabbos ve'erev Shabbos Shadinle. It was a continuation of Thursday and Friday. And Vayaylu Kuliyam, and therefore it's a mood for all days because it was Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. Or do we know? HaShabbos Kamaisa, that first Shabbos, Basa Shabbos with the Shadinle. It goes after Shabbos, with the Shabbos with the Yid. And it's only mood for Shabbos. So the Gemara take a let us down. It's not clear what the halacha is going to be in these cases. Now, the Gemara brings what is actually very critical for most women, where they kala classes. My wife's very busy with it. She's one of these kala teachers, and so you have to know the calendar. One of the more difficult things is who does the calendar, the husband or the wife. So this Gemara touches upon how you cheshbon, which Taisa goes into greater detail, obviously, with what they call the Vesta Chodesh, the Vesta Flaga, and your mind is starting to water already. Say, I don't know, you do this. They have these apps now, they have these calendars, but this is like this. Says the Gemara like this. Nogach shar. Let's say the ox gores Yom Tezvav b'Chodesh Zeh. Okay, so it's the 15th of the month that it goes. You see, like you wonder with the Carfax thing. You see how detailed it comes to know calculations of what's happening. What patterns are you having? Because that's really the theme of a woman also with the vestas of the Vest Kavua. So let's say it gored on the 15th of the month, and then Yom Tez Zayin b'Chodesh Zeh. Then it went the 16th of the month, and Yom Yud Zayin b'Chodesh Zeh. So it was the 15th, the 16th, and the 17th. So it's a pluk to the Rabbi Shmuel. It's a machlekes Rabbi and Shmuel. What's this machlekes? Is it what we learned? Which again, this is in the context of the halachas of nida. Rasa Yom Tezvav b'Chodesh Zeh. If a woman had a period on the 15th of the month, and then Yom Tezvav b'Chodesh Zeh, meaning we're talking about the following month, the 16th of the month, and then Yom Yud Zayin b'Chodesh Zeh, and then she had a period because usually a woman has once a month around, and then it was a day later. It's on the 17th of the month, which Rashi points out originally she used to have on other days. Now it's the first time that she saw on the 15th, then on the 16th, then on the 17th. Her Vesta Chedesh was not previously on any one of these days. So we have a machlekes. Rav says Kabbalah Vest. She established a pattern for jumping. So when she sees this third time on the 17th of the month for the third time, so that's what's called Daya Shaita, which we say that she's not going to be Mitame and Taharas of a 24-hour period, because the Mishnah teaches us any woman that has a vest, we say Daya Shaita, which means we presume it came. Therefore, that creates a leniency and a stringency. Most people know it as a stringency. She has a vest kavur, yivei, this, that, okay, she's done, whatever. Always has to be chaysh. But in halachas of tahara, it's a leniency because you know that it's now, that it wasn't in any other time. But the third time already established a vest. Shmuel Ami says no. It's not a vest kavua until she sees a fourth time on the 18th of the following month. Why? Because the first time you saw on the 15th of the first month, that's not counted because that wasn't a jump. So here also, according to Rav, the 3 gorings that were done by this muad of jumping, you'll pay nezek shalom on the third time, which is the way Rashi explains it. And according to Shmuel, until you gore the fourth time on the 18th of the fourth month, because the first one's not from the minyan. So that's how Rashi explains that there's another point of Rashi over here, which Marsha and Maram say that Rashi retracts from this, so we won't say it. But al kapanim, that machlekes that we have in Hilchas Nida is going to come up over here in the halachas of shor muad regarding what's going to make it into a muad, because it's really the jump that's the muad. So do you count the first one as number one? Or do you say, no, the first jump is what makes it, that's the first jump. So you'll only get 3 jumps when it does it a fourth time. That's going to be Machlekes Rav and Shmuel. When does it become a muad? On the third time or on the fourth time? Now, Amar Rava says, Shamakol Shayfer v'nagach. Let's say the animal hears the sound of the shayfer and the gores. Kol Shayfer v'nagach, the sound of the shayfer and the gores. Kol Shayfer v'nagach, the sound of the shayfer and the gores. It becomes a muad for the shayfer blast. So pshita, because we know in Hilchas Nida also, it can become a woman could get a vest for jumping, for different types of things. So who cares? It's a blast of a shayfer. That seems obvious. Says Gemara, no matter what would you say? Hach shayfer kam, the first shayfer blast you to ba'almahud denakdei. It's that it just got frightened. Where it got frightened, it jumped, and therefore it went and it injured another animal. So you would think that maybe it has not yet established its pattern. Kamash from that, no, even the first one is going to be counted, which therefore makes sense that it's coming in on the heels of this previous machlekes Rav and Shmuel. Do you count that first one or not? That's the chiddush that we're going to count that for a shayfer blast, and it's going to go together for 3 times to make a mood. The Gemara continues the halacha, the next Mishnah, continuing this theme regarding the liability of a shur shenagach. So shur shel Yisrael, shenagach shur shel hektish. Hektish owns a whole bunch of animals. They have a certain place where they keep their animals. They're delivering them, and a regular Jew is shur gores that the hektish shur, or the other way around. Shel hektish shenagach shur shel hedjid. The hektish shur gores the regular person's shur. So pater, either way, they're going to be exemption, like it says in the pasuk in Shemais. It says if the ox of a person is going to gore the shoyri ehu, the ox of his friend, which your friend, b'lei shor shel hektish, and not the ox of hektish, which is not of your friend. So there's no halacha liability when it gores, or either. No, the whole halacha of negicha of shor shel nagach does not apply by that of hektish. Now shor shel Yisrael shel nagach l'shor shel kanani. A regular shor of Yisrael that gores a non-Jew's shor, pater, the Jew is exempt, but the non-Jews gores that of the Yisraels, bein tam bein muad. Then whether it's a tam or muad, mishal nezek shalom is always going to pay the full damages, even if it's a tam. So the Gemara points out, our mission is not like B'Shim ben Menasya. Why? You're trying to learn the Brisa that it's a machlekes. Shor shel hedyish and nogach shor shel hektish. If a regular person's ox gores hektish's ox, or v'shal hektish and nogach shor shel hedyish, or the other way around, hektish gores a regular person's ox. Pater, there's going to be exemption either way. Shlomo says in the pasuk, like we said in our Mishnah, Shari'eyu, which is the ox of your friend, that's our Mishnah. But Shimon Nasi he disagrees. He says Sharshal Hekdesh and Agach Sharshal Hedyed Potter. Yeah, if Hekdesh gores a regular person, it's gonna be Potter. But if Hekdesh and Agach Sharshal Hekdesh, but if a regular person gores out of Hekdesh, then actually being Tam Mud Misham Nezik Shalom, whether it was Tam or Mud, meaning even the Tam will pay the full damages. Not that you're Potter, to the contrary, you actually pay full damages. So that obviously is not like our Mishnah. So they said, Micah Rabbi Shimon. How do we understand the opinion of Shimon? As the Gemara explains. If the word in the pasuk for the liability of shor shenagach has to be it's goring shari eyu, which actually is the simple translation of the pasuk. It's saying if your ox is going to gore the ox of re'ehu, then you're going to be chayiv. But when it gores hektish, which is not re'ehu, you should be totally pater. And the ireyu lav dafka, and if re'ehu is not precise, so the hektish nami, then even regarding hektish, ki nagach the hedyed l'chayiv, when the gores that of a hedyed should be liable. So why are we saying that hektish is going to be pater and the Yisrael is going to be nezik shalom? If you're going to say no, the truth is he holds re'ehu dafka, that yes, the word re'ehu is precise, and therefore when hektish is gores that of a Yisrael is going to be pater, and the truth is really so when a regular person gores hektish should also be pater, but umiyu the hedyed kinagach the hektish, but the case of when a regular person's ox gores out of hektish, the reason why you're going to be liable is from the kamaitzilim kavachimer the head because it's kavachimer from a regular person. It's just from a kavachimer because a mahedish and nagach shall hedyed chayiv. If a regular person's ox goes a regular person's ox, there's a liability. So kinagach the hektish like kolshkin mechayiv. So when the gourds out of hektish isn't all the more so for sure that you're going to be chayiv. So that's why maybe he holds that even the re'ehu is dafka, but the liability of hektish because from a kavachimer. Says that doesn't make sense because da'i lav nadin leads kanidin. You could only learn out from what you're learning out from. And malal, just like over there, when it's a hedyed that gores a hedyed is a tam chatzin nezik. If it's the first two times only half damages, okay, even if you can say chayv when you're goring hektish, should only be chatzin nezik. How are you saying it's nezik shalom? So Elam Shlakish rather Shlakish says very interesting the way he's translating it. He says like this: Hakol hoyu b'chlal nezik shalom. The truth is, when we mentioned by muad, everyone was in the category of nezik shalom because by muad all it says is shalom yishalom shar. And by mud, it doesn't mention the word re'ehu. So that seems to include all cases. So in that case, a hedyed would be chayiv by hektish. Oh, so therefore, so when by tam, it does specify and says that halacha only applies by re'ehu, it's not coming to exempt a hedyed from the damage that it does to hektish. It's actually coming to be stringent on him to say that he's going to have to pay nezik shalom a hektish. Because we're telling you that we're saying the tam is not going to be nezik shalom, it's only going to be chatzin nezik. That's only by re'ehu. Re'ehu the tam b'sham chatzin nezik. It's only by re'ehu that you're going to get off the hook and pay only chatzin nezik. The inference is the hektish, which is not in the category of re'ehu, bein tam bein mud b'sham nezik shalom. Whether it's tam or mud, it's going to pay the full damages. So, as the Gemara continues on top of Lamed Chesed and Alf, because the imkain that if it was coming to exempt, like the Talmud Kama holds, nichtav kro lahai re'ehu gabe muad. It should have said the word re'ehu by muad. So, and it doesn't. But so therefore, when you mazik hektish yichayim the nezik shalom muad, and you're not going to get off the hook of the chatzin nezik of tam, which Rashi explains. But hektish that damages hedyed, he's going to be potter because hektish is not even in the category of muad. Why? Because you can't say v'huad b'alav. To become a muad, you have to warn the owners, which that's Hashem, and you don't have v'huad b'alav. And for sure by tam, because it says v'chiyigav shar ish. So Rashi learns out that those that we know that hektish is going to be potter, we learn that from tam from shar ish, which is not ish, and by muad because you can't have v'huad b'alav. Therefore, you can be potter when hektish damages. And you can be chayiv nezik shalom, like we said, the lamdus of because re'ehu was a patur, and saying that only applies for tam for re'ehu, but not for that of hektish. Thank you to anytime for hosting us.